What's up, Des Moines? Another episode of Invitation by Invictus. Today we got the infamous Jordan Peterson of Paramount Barbershop with us. So a little backstory. I met Jordan a few years ago. I used to go into Paramount and get my hair cut, and now Jordan is my barber today, and we kind of talk shop literally, and I was like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? And he's like, yeah, I'm down. Yeah, let me know. So we finally got Jordan in the studio, and thanks for coming on, Jordan. We appreciate the time you give us.
Thanks for doing this. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've been trying to do this for like the last couple weeks, and well, by the time this airs, you'll probably have your baby.
Yeah.
But you were supposed to be here a couple weeks ago, and then we thought the missus
was gonna maybe go a little early, but
yeah.
We're not doing that yet, so it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fatherhood.
I know.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Probably have to do some less haircuts or something.
Yeah. So you recently just got married, right?
Yep.
And then your baby is due
November 5th.
Okay. Yeah, I think this podcast airs after that.
Okay.
Just not too, or no, but I think I'm gonna play it before. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put you in the next couple weeks. So
awesome.
Hopefully, baby doesn't come before then, but I'm sure you guys are ready, right?
Yeah, we're ready. Yep.
You guys have been ready for a long time.
Oh yeah. It's crazy.
So let's kind of talk about you. Let's talk about where you grew up, where you were, and then you were in the music industry for a while, and then you started Paramount. So why don't you just kind of give us a Cliff Note version?
Yeah, it's a long story, but so I'm from the south side of Des Moines. And right out of high school, I moved to Minneapolis with some buddies, and we were doing our band.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just kind of work whatever jobs, valet. I worked at a tattoo shop and whatever. And the focus was the band. And we were touring when we could and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And we got signed, and then we relocated back to Iowa in 2005. And we started getting tours and stuff. So I was on the road pretty much nonstop from like late 2005 to early 2009.
Wow, 4 years.
Yeah.
Of touring?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I would just I couldn't hold down an apartment at that point.
Yeah.
So I would just like stay at friends' houses and couch surf and whatever, and then live in my sister's basement and just stuff like that. Yeah. And then go on the road and live on other people's floors. And so, but I learned a lot from that whole experience of like DIY, do it yourself. Mm-hmm. And, it taught me a lot about running a business as being like the point person in the band.
Yeah.
And then also, how to run a business in a weird way, because you're dealing with merchandising, you're dealing with, at that level, you have an agent, you have a manager,
right.
And then, band members, and someone's got to be like the leader. And so I kind of was. So then I learned a lot I didn't realize at the time that I was learning business, but I was learning business and networking and everything else.
Right.
So I was doing that. And then, a lot of member changes, struggles, hardships. I mean, you know how it goes. I mean, we're literally, everybody, we got $10 a day to eat. And at
$10 a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we're in the microphone saying, if anyone's got a place for us to crash, or if we can just use your shower, we'll leave after, you know what I mean? So you're really roughing it, and sleeping in the van and
because you're traveling the entire country.
Yeah.
Playing in venues.
And we're in like an opening slot a lot. So, especially at this point in time, this sounds crazy, but the pay would be like $150
for the entire band.
For the band, and then you were you were like trying to get your name out there, right?
Yeah.
So and so's letting you open. They take all the money, and then you get like barely enough gas money to get to the next spot. So then all your money is from like merchandising. Okay. So we, you sell $400 or $500 in merch, but half of that is cost of goods. Right. And then it's going in the gas tank, and then everyone's trying to get like some lunch money, and then you're like, when you're getting a Motel 6 every once in a while to be luxurious.
That's the luxury part.
Yes, and we're all cramming in there and stuff, and so that whole thing like taught me a lot about like grit and whatever you're trying to do, like basically at all costs, not give up, The grind. It taught me how to grind, and. So, we were doing that for years, and then it got to the point where, I was like 24, and I'm like, if I can't even afford an apartment, Like, you know, and we were having label problems and these problems. And
So you got no money from the label?
no, so you would get like an advance, and
Okay.
you could basically you'd record an album and eat it all up. And then you would maybe borrow some money when your like trailer breaks down, and then you never see it. You sell, you don't really know what they're selling, and they always say you're in debt to them, and you never really get any money. I mean, it's crazy. So we would, I mean, it was a struggle. I mean, I remember we were on tour for like 30 days, and afterwards we all got like $600, and we were like, thought we were making it. And we were like, okay, we're going home with Christmas with some $600 in our pocket. Thought that was great.
Yeah,
and
you had money in your pocket for once.
And then I would go home and just like work whatever I could find, you know, and try to make up for it.
Odd jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then once, you know, I realized that the big problem of trying to get ahead in that world was like the merchandising aspect. Mm-hmm. So I got with my brother-in-law, and I was like, hey, here's a deal. Let's start a screen printing business. Which if you've heard of it, we still have it. It's called Method Ink Printing.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So, I was like, hey, let's do this. Let's do, you know, I'll have a job when I come home. I'll get us bands to print for, and then we can get our stuff at like cost. You know what I mean? So I was okay, let's do it. So then we did it, and I would come home and print, and then I would go on the road, and I would print our stuff. It helped us like continue on for a bit, because now we had cost of goods way lower.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that business, and then the band was kind of dwindling off. You know, we had member problems or internal problems, whatever. Label, we left one label because we thought it wasn't good enough, and then they became huge, and the label we went to went under, and then it was just all those type of things. So. Yeah. So anyway, so the band decides to break up. That's 2009. And then I have the screen printing business, and it's relatively small, though. It's enough to get by, but, you know, it's relatively small.
Right.
Well, then one of my best friends is Sam Summers, and then he was just starting to get off the ground with his company, First Fleet Concerts. Well, they'd been around for like 4 years, but now he was trying to transition into leaving his day job and actually doing it full time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then he asked me, hey, you know touring, you've been on the road, all this stuff.
Right. You know all those aspects that's needed.
Yep. And he's like, I want to leave my day job. I need someone to run the actual shows. And so I was like, oh, that sounds like a great gig. So then I started doing production managing, and, you know, stuff from like all the way from like Snoop Dogg, where I was like the point person, all the way down to like smaller stuff, even at Vaudeville Muse with like metal bands. And so, you know, it was awesome, but it was, you know, it was hard. You know, I was going to Iowa City a lot, getting home at 2 a.m, then waking up and printing T-shirts. I was just like, I've always just been like a go 24/7 person.
Yeah.
It's like an ADHD thing.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, man, I just can't really, I don't know how to level up, you know, and I'm approaching my late 20s at this point. Mm-hmm. And I'm like 29, and I'm like, man, I'm kind of burnt out on this industry. You know, I've got tour managers bugging me all the time. I'm not the owner of the company, you know what I mean? I'm just like a manager, but you know, it's hard work, it's stressful. And I was like, man, I gotta get my own thing. What's my own thing gonna be? And I remember just racking my head, and I'm like, I'm kind of sick of music, you know, and it takes a toll on you when you want to be on stage, and then you're not doing that anymore, and your job is to watch other people do what you want to do for a job.
Yeah.
I mean, and like their working personnel are like not always cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, it starts to take a toll on you after years of that.
Kind of have some resentment.
Yeah, it starts to make you a little bitter, you know, and then you know, and so I was like, well, what am I going to do? What is my thing going to be? And I'm like, I know the energy that I put into everything, I was like, if I can just find my thing, I will do it. I will be able to make it. And so I'm just thinking, like, man, what is it going to be? Well, I was always really into my haircuts.
Okay.
And even when I didn't know how to do hair, I wanted to like tell my friends, like, no, you got to do your hair. You got to do your hair like this. Or guys in my band, like, you know, that looks stupid.
You got to have that look.
You got to, you know, and I always thought I knew, you know what I mean? Well, barber culture was just starting to come back around.
Right. Yeah, because it had been dormant for a long time.
Yeah.
Because when you think of a barber shop, you think of the old dudes wearing those like
The smocks.
the button-up smocks, and
You're all gonna get the same haircut or whatever.
It's either the high and tight or you shave.
Or a regular guy, like, or a little...
The comb over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, barber culture was starting to come back, and the style in the 2000s, even I'm guilty. I mean, you know, I had like kind of rockerish hair, you know, like kind of, I had it dyed black, and I had, you know, kind of, people call it emo hair. I had that stuff for a while.
I think Justin showed me.
Yeah,
one day.
I had that stuff for a while.
I was like, is that freaking Jordan?
Yeah.
And he's like, hell yeah.
So I think I was meant to be in the industry because I did always kind of follow the trends.
Yeah.
But well, that stuff was like going away, and I remember looking at haircuts. There was a tattooer that had like you know, a nice haircut that was faded on the sides and over on top. And all stuff. I'm like, you know, I was like, I want something like that. Where am I gonna go? And you know, I tried to show it to like a hairstylist at the time. It didn't come out right. So I was like, well. Then I saw another dude with a sharp fade, and I said, where'd you get that? And he's like, well, I went to this dude on the north side named Keon. It's this little barbershop called Hull Avenue Barbershop. And I was like, okay. So I just walk in there, and we became great friends. But Keon is just one dude in there. And I came in, and I don't think at that point he had much of a white clientele. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like, what kind of haircut is this guy going to get? You know? And I was like, hey, you know, I sit down and show him this picture of this guy. He's like, oh, yeah, I think I can do that. So then I get a haircut. I'm like, man, this feels great. You know, because I never had it, like, super tight like that. Yeah. And I was like, I just immediately loved it, right?
Yeah, you were
hooked. Hooked. And so I would go every week.
Every week?
Every week.
Wow. And you're diligent.
I just loved it. So I would go every week. And then through my haircut, I'm like, well, I'm looking for products. And this is kind of, you know, I come across like Layrite on Instagram. And Instagram's very early at this point. I mean, people are like posting their sandwich, you know, it like was not a marketing platform at all.
Not a marketing, not an artistic. It was just
family, sandwiches, a sky. You know, I mean, it was like, that was it.
People walking.
Yeah. So I find like Layrite, and I'm like, man, that's a cool barbershop. I'm finding like these barbershops and like pomade companies. And, you know, on the West Coast, there's all these cool shops where they play cool music and have a cool vibe. I'm like, man, that's cool. You know, I like my barber. I'm like, you know, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I should be ahead of the curve and try to, like, get that going out here. Yeah. I'm like, there's my idea. Okay, now I got a plan.
Okay.
And so then I'm like, well, it can't be that hard to go to barber school. Well, it is. So I thought it would just be like a 6-month thing, part-time. And so I go to inquire, and it's like, you know, 45 hours a week, full-time.
Yeah.
There's basically no time to have a job outside of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit, I can't do it. So then I'm like, so I put it on hold for a while, keep working 6 more months doing concerts. And I'm like, I just got to, you know, I was like, I got to pull out my grit here and find a way. Yeah. So I'm just like, screw it. Just sign me up. I'll start June 1st, 2013 or whatever it was. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting up. I go to the bank, pretend that I'm not quitting jobs, and take out a personal loan. Okay. And so I took out some student loans.
You took the personal loan out to pay for your barber school?
No, I took out a personal loan to live off of.
Got it.
Because I wouldn't really be able to have a job.
Yeah, because it's like 9 months, isn't it?
It's a year.
Oh, it's a year?
And it took me 13 months. So it's a year, and I was like, well, shit, I'm not going to be able to, like, work a job, really. I mean, I have the screen printing business, but I told, you know, when I decided to go to barber school, he was like, oh, I'm kind of sick of it anyways. My brother-in-law was at that time. And then, so we took the website down, and we just kept, like, a couple clients that we liked. Yeah. And then I'll come back to that, but we restarted. It's going great right now. But so that kind of went away because I wasn't even going to have time to print shirts, really. You know, I was already going to be in school all day. Yeah. So took out a personal loan, took out student debt, and I just said, screw it, I'm going at 29 years old, you know. Went, and right as I'm starting to go, another a barbershop here that is really cool opened up at that time. And it was Brian Hogan and Paul Polson had graduated right before I started, and they opened Franklin Barbershop.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, I was like, oh, cool shop's opening. I didn't feel like any, like, competitiveness about it. I was like, oh, great. Like, we're onto the right track here. I'm going to do, you know. But they kind of had a different, they wanted to take a different route at it than me. So one thing that I was sick of my own barbershop at that time was appointments. You know, I came from being a salon guy. And then I started going to the old school barber shop, and I was like, man, it was like 4 hours on a Saturday
To wait.
and it was a grind. And then, you know, he's closed at 5 sharp, and I'm done printing shirts at 5. I can't get a haircut.
Yeah.
So I was like, shoot, you know, so I was kind of going into it like, I'm going to do appointments. I'm going to stay open a little later. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Some of the things that like wasn't working for me as a client, but they were like, you know, Franklin was doing the old school, line them all up. You're here for hours.
They
It's fun.
still do that.
Yes. So because of the pandemic, they just started doing appointments. So
Oh, really?
yeah, they
Well,
like
good
it.
for
So
them.
we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. Yeah. So, so I was like, well, they're doing the walk-in thing. I was like, I know what my niche is going to be. I'm going to be the appointment guy.
Yeah.
So I go to school, and as soon as I can even kind of do a haircut, I turn my loft into a haircutting studio, and I start with $10. And so I was going to school during the day, and then like, you know, people knew me from just music and everything I've done. So I knew a lot of people. And then I also, you know, understood marketing from all that stuff that I'd done.
Yeah.
And so I started using Instagram very early on for posting haircuts.
Right.
And not really a lot of people had done it yet. So it started kind of catching steam.
Right.
And I also had the idea of, now there's too much stuff out there. This wouldn't work now. But at that time I was like, hey, you know, so-and-so, you're stoked about your cut. I got this picture. Will you post it on yours and tag Hair Jordan?
Yeah.
And yeah, of course I will. So he does that. So then all of a sudden now he's getting messages saying, who is that guy? Where's he cut at?
Right,
Well, actually he's cuts out of his loft. And it just starts like building this little underground thing. And the next thing you know, I'm, you know, moonlighting till 10 p.m. at my apartment, cutting people's hair.
While going to school.
And going to school.
Yeah.
And then Sundays and Mondays when I'm off, I'd cram those whole days full of people. And strangers were coming to my apartment. And it was all because of Instagram.
Yeah.
It was just like that good time where it was just perfect, you know? So then I'm like, I feel like I was getting better at cutting hair, and I go to $15, and then I go to $20, and I'm still keeping it undercover at school. I don't tell anyone at school, and I pretend that I'm just a regular student, but they have no clue that I'm already like making decent money at it.
Yeah.
Which is great because I had like all adult bills. I was 30 years old. I had adult bills.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't just like 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know,
Mom
living
and
with my
dad weren't
parents.
paying your bills.
No.
Yeah.
So, so I had some cash, and then all of a sudden the demand is getting kind of crazy, and I literally don't have any more spots to cut people at my house. So then I start telling people, all right, go to the school, request me.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, man. I get $20 at my house. So the school charges $8. And I said, go to the front, pay the $20, but tell them I get the change.
The tip.
Yeah.
Because you can tip.
I was like, I get no money there. I was like, I get money at my house, but I can't take any more people at my house. I was like, you know, this way I at least get $12 or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, cool. They don't think nothing of it. So then I have 2 appointment books, one for my house and one for the school.
Yeah.
And so then the school, every hour, you know, people are coming in one after another, Jordan. And then they start noticing that everybody's giving a 20 and saying, this dude can keep the change. Like, this guy's running a business out of here.
Yeah.
So then it's getting closer to me graduating. They're mad at me. All the instructors are.
They are?
Yeah, they don't want you doing this. Technically, I should have not been cutting outside of my house. That was illegal at the time.
Yeah.
Or outside of school, that was illegal. But I had to get by, and I was building up. I wasn't coming in. I was coming to this guns blazing. I wasn't going to wait to figure it.
You were building your books.
Yes, I was trying, and they should have had me teach a class to the rest of the kids, but instead they were like threatening to kick me out.
Yeah.
I was getting close to graduating, so I built a website for myself, hairjordan.net. It's gone now, but anyways,
Okay.
And I had my book. I was actually the first person here to use online booking.
The Gen Books.
Yep, I was the first person to do that, and then I saw some other barber in California use Gen Books. I'm like, sure, Gen Book, right? So that's what everybody here uses now.
Yeah.
But actually, there's way better platforms. I kind of feel like I'm stuck with them, but everybody around here just now knows to use that one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But anyways, so I have a website. The director of the school at that time finds my website and says I'm posing as a real barber, and like, you're not licensed, and you're posing as a licensed barber.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm taking appointments for my first week at the barbershop, which I was.
Right.
And the online stuff, I was getting so close to graduating, so I was filling people that were in my appointment books. I'm like, hey, start getting my stuff booked. And so it was this huge debacle where I was, he's like, we're not dumb. We know that people are coming in one after another saying you get all the change and and I'm like, hey,
At least you're bringing people to the school.
yeah, they were making money off
Yeah.
it. It's insane. I should have been congratulated for it, but I wasn't. It was this huge debacle. And anyways, I got away with it. But I just stuck to my guns and I was like, listen, dude, I'm trying to make it. You guys should think this is impressive.
Yeah, this is entrepreneurial 101.
This is entrepreneurial 101.
Yeah.
So they let me graduate still. They found some weird way to like kind of tax me, and they're like, well, actually you owe $3,000 more. I didn't even know where it came from. Yeah.
The school?
The school. They do. I shouldn't be on the record doing this, but it's weird like that. So
I'll say it. They do some shady shit.
Yeah. So I pay them. And then I go to graduate, and the owner of the school is like, well, we can't say he always was the most lawful person that graduated here. And anyways, after I graduated, they like, when they would bring people in, they're like, listen, there's a guy that went to school here, and he thought he was slick. and if we catch you charging people for haircuts before your license, you'll be kicked out of here, and you'll never be a barber. When in reality, they should have said, this guy should come teach classes about how to build a clientele. Because they don't have any way to do it. They just tell you, oh, go work at some place for an hourly wage or go to a small town and take over a barber shop. Yeah. So anyways, I graduate, and a buddy I was in school with is Craig, who started Universal Cuts.
Okay.
And he started that. We were in school together. And so he was starting that, and he's like, hey, I know you're going to do your own shop, but if you don't want to cut out of your loft, like, come down here, cut, and whenever you're ready to go do your thing. I'm like, okay, sweet. So first week, right out of school, booked solid.
Yeah.
And even during the 12:30 on a Tuesday, I was booked.
Yeah.
And
at Universal.
At Universal.
And how long did you stay there?
A year and a half.
While you were getting your like business plan together for Paramount?
Yep. Okay. So then, so I was cutting there. Everything is going good, having a blast with the guys.
How many barbers were there at the time?
It's actually crazy because we got up to 9 people in like a 700 square foot room. It was like this smaller in this room, and we're all in there, and like the AC couldn't keep up, and it was insane.
Jesus.
It was
so
insane.
You're just like packed in there like sardines.
Yes.
It was a haircut factory.
It was a haircut factory. It was sick though, but yeah. So like Ian was there with me.
Yeah.
And then they moved to a bigger location.
Universal did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're like a block away from the original spot, but it's a big spot.
Okay. Universal, that's like
on University and Waveland.
Okay.
Yep. It used to be in a smaller spot, like a block away.
Yeah. Okay.
So so I was there, and then I was just basically like, okay, I know I want to open a shop in the East Village. And I would just always kind of drive around, take laps, and see what's around. And where Paramount is at now, I remember when I was signing up for school, I looked at that spot. I'm like, that's the type of spot I need, long and straight. You know what I mean? I'm like, those will never probably come up for rent though. So anyways, I circle every couple months. I would just drive around and look, and there was a for lease sign in the spot that Paramount is in. I'm like, oh shit, I don't really have enough money to pull this off, but I got the clients, I got the business, I got the reputation pretty fast, and I was like, I have to do it though, because that spot's never going to be available. Someone's going to rent it.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back to my old freaking band mentality, you know what I mean, of by any means possible.
Right.
And so I contact them. I start trying to figure it out. But honestly, I don't have a lot saved to do this. I've got some money, but I've been trying to pay off loans from going to school. Right. I maxed out credit cards. You know what I mean? All these things. Yeah. The grind. The grind. And so I go to try to get with a banker about it, and they're just like, they're a credit union, which they're supposed to be more flexible, but they're just like, hey, we need 2 years of experience. I'm like, well, how do you start a business then?
Yeah, how can you start,
start a business? Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's basically like a huge roadblock from going from like an employee to an owner, because nobody will give you money unless you've already figured out how to open it on your own. Isn't that crazy?
Taking that chance. Yeah, I know what it is.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah. They're like, okay, well, where's your 2 years of business experience? I don't have any. And they're like, well, can't do nothing for you. You got a house to put up? No, not yet. Well, I mean, they're not going to give you money without something.
Some collateral.
Yeah. Or experience.
Yeah.
And so that was tough to figure out. Very stressful. And basically, honestly, I mean, it's crazy that I did it this way, but I tried to hit up everybody I knew that had some money.
Yeah.
And I borrowed increments of money from a bunch of people. cash.
And paid them back.
I got the shop open, then worked 7 days a week for 2 years straight to pay everybody, people back.
I didn't
and
know
that's
that.
what it took.
Yeah.
That's what it took.
Well, I mean, that's cool that you had that many people believe in you and your dream, essentially.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Did you pay interest back?
I paid a couple people some interest, and some people were family and stuff like that. But so then I got open, and I bring the bank back in. I'm like, hey, here it is. I did it without you guys. Now can I have some money to condense like all this stuff? And they're like, well, you still haven't been open for 2 years. I'm like, here, look at my gen book. You can't get in with me for like 6-7 weeks. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, you're booked out like 2 months
I'm
in
not going
advance.
anywhere. I got the clients. So I got them to give me some money. So then I was able to pay people back, and then I had a loan with them. So I was like, it freaking worked somehow. But it was insane.
You just had to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yeah, and that's kind of where that whole perseverance of like, it takes a certain type of mentality to do certain things. And you know, other people you've had on this have that type of mentality, you know, Wes, and just like that kind of failure can't happen. This is gonna happen no matter what kind of thing.
By any means possible.
Yep. And so that's what it takes to get a business off the ground. You cannot have an employee mindset of like, I work from 9 to 5, and I get to go to all the things, and
I get my weekends.
I get my weekends. I get all my all my, you know, it's like, it's a different mindset where like that's the only thing that matters, and you're willing to sacrifice relationships or anything for it, right?
Yeah.
And I think from being in a position of working, of not having the opportunity to have my own thing for so long, by the time I did, I was just like willing to do anything for it, you know?
Yeah.
So
it was so close.
Yeah, it was so close. So that's how I got that. That's how I got the shop. I mean, it was not like handed to me, you know?
So Paramount opened in what year?
2015.
And you started off with 5 barbers?
Yep.
How did you find the other 4?
So then Luis was my first friend I made in barber school.
Okay.
I was literally like walking through, and he was like the first person to be nice to me.
Yeah.
So then we like crewed up right away. And he kind of already knew how to cut when he went in, and he was like clearly the best person in there. And so
Luis is gangster.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah, like
he's my barber. He's the best barber
he's like
ever.
3 weeks. I'm sorry. He's like 3 months out.
Yeah.
Like as far as like gen book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's the best. He's the man.
Yeah. I like Luis. He's good shit.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
And so he was super nice, and I was like, hey, the instructors aren't teaching me much. And like in barber school at that time too, it was kind of competitive. So the kids that kind of knew something were kind of like, you know, they weren't like really reaching their hand out to help you. It was competitive kind of.
Nobody's giving their secret out.
So he was just like willing. He helped me out a ton. I mean, he even was like, you know, writing out steps for me on how to do things. And
really?
Yeah, he was really helpful.
Yeah.
And so we were tight. And actually, I hooked him up. Introduced him to my old barber, Keon, because he always cut by himself. And I was like, Keon, I was like, if you want another guy, I was like, this is a good dude.
Yeah.
And I think you guys would get along. And and Luis wanted to stay on the east side.
Okay.
So, or east, north, whatever. And so he went over there.
For a little bit.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I always knew I wanted us to work together.
Yeah.
And then me and Paul were friends in school.
Oh, you guys all went to school together.
Yeah.
So everybody that
Not
started.
everybody.
Okay.
But so me, Paul, and Luis were in at the same time.
Okay.
And then so then I went to Paul, and he was working at the Skywalk barber shop and charging like $16 for a haircut.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I was charging more than that in my house.
Yeah.
You know, and so he's like, well, I don't know if these people are going to do appointments, and I don't know, I got a bunch of old guys or whatever. He's like, I don't think they're going to do this. And I was like, you got to try. I was like, I guarantee you this is going to work. You got to come over here. I was like, dude, you can't be charging $16 and being like the old guy barber. Yeah. You're too young for that, and you're good and whatever.
Yeah. He
took a ton of convincing. But anyway, so he took a kind of convincing. He wouldn't jump on board right away. And he was in the worst position out of everybody I got. So anyways, he was over there. Luis jumped on board, and Keon was cool about it. He knew we were friends anyways, so he was cool. And so Luis jumped on board, and then Zach went to school after we all graduated.
Okay.
And then he just knew me from Instagram and stuff. So he hit me up and was like, hey, can I come watch you cut when I get off school? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So then that's how we struck up a relationship.
Okay.
But then he went back to Centerville, and where he's from, which is 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And it was cutting there, but there's 7,000 people in that town.
Yeah,
and
you're not busy.
You know, it's not going, Fridays and Saturdays maybe, but you're not going to have much down there. So I called him and got him on board. And then I came back to Paul because Paul and Zach were already buddies. I was like, come on, Paul.
Yeah.
Got Paul. And then, so then there's 4 of us. And then we open up and, and then there's Jay, who's now at Loyal Sons.
Right.
And he was a student. And then we just struck up a friendship. So then he obviously had nowhere to go when he got out of school. So he came right over. And then him and Hutch were in school together. So when Hutch had that shop, it was a natural fit for them to go.
Yeah.
And then from there, Keegan was my client.
Right.
And the crazy thing with the whole band, like metal world intertwining with haircuts, is there is a band after the Burial, and Keegan's a huge fan of them. And I cut the dude's hair when they're in town because I'm buddies with him.
Okay.
And then Keegan was just looking at hashtag after the Burial. And so, like, there's Barber in Des Moines, like, cuts this guy's hair.
Yeah.
So then he's, like, booked an appointment with me. And, like, if he wouldn't have done that, he wouldn't even be a barber right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's, like, one of the best barbers in the state.
Yeah.
But, so anyways, he comes to me, and he's like, you cut after the Burial's hair? I'm like, yeah, you know. And, and then he's like, well, I think would be a cool job and all this stuff. And I was like, you should do it, you know.
Yeah.
So then he goes to school.
Signs up.
And
then doesn't he come and work at your shop for free for a while?
Well, no, he
or he would come in.
He would come
watch?
hang out and watch.
Okay. Yeah.
But at that point, I had 5 chairs and they were full.
Yeah.
And I felt bad. I'm like, dude, Keegan's my client, and I got him to go to barber school, and I can't even bring him into the shop.
Yeah.
And so then he was like getting closer to graduate, and I was like, screw it. I freaking knocked a wall down.
Yeah, I remember
and built
that.
another station.
Yeah.
So then I brought Keegan in. So then there was 6. And then Brandon was at Universal for a while.
Okay.
And then he would always come over here and watch haircuts and stuff. And so we were friends. And then when Jay went to over there, we brought Brandon in.
Yeah.
And then the weirdest thing is then I had a friendship with this dude, Pete, on Instagram.
Right.
Instagram just like opens up so many doors.
Right.
And he posted, I want to leave California. And I really liked his work. And I was like, I didn't think he'd ever say yes. And I was like, hey, come to Iowa. He's like, are you serious? And I was like, I don't know. Are you? And he's like, he's like, well, I got a job offer in Salt Lake City, but I have to wear a tie. And I was like, you can wear shorts and a T-shirt over here.
Yeah.
You know, and
be
so,
yourself.
Yeah. So this was like a Thursday, and he flew in on a Sunday.
To come check things out?
Come check it out.
Okay.
And I show him around the city, and then I booked him up. It so happened that Brandon was on vacation. So that Tuesday and Wednesday, I filled him up with appointments somehow.
Just random appointments.
I was putting on Instagram, I got this guy coming. Who wants a cut that can't get in? And everybody's clients who like needed one were like, we'll sign up with this dude.
Yeah.
So then he cut in the shop for a couple of days. He's like, dude, I like Des Moines. He's like, this is sick.
Yeah. How long has he been here?
A year.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm sick of living in Los Angeles, and it's a
LA
rat
sucks.
race, and it's can't afford anything.
Yeah.
And
you want to talk about living on people's couches and shit like that.
That's it's
that's
rough.
what it is.
Yeah.
And smog and pollution.
Yep.
Cost of living's like stupid high.
So I knocked down another wall.
Yeah.
And then built another one, and now our shop's like maxed out.
Yeah.
And
because you can't come in and get a walk-in appointment.
You can't. And you could only for like the first couple months we were open.
Yeah.
And
when Keegan first started.
Keegan, yep.
Yeah.
And now it's worked out to a point where our website's pretty strong, like integrated with Google and stuff, that like if I put a new barber on the website, they will get appointments.
It gets absorbed quickly.
It gets absorbed.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of times where we have clients that are sick of dealing with my books and stuff. And they're like, I love Jordan, but this dude sits right next to him. I'm still coming to the shop. I'm like, great, come to this
That's
dude.
always been your motto.
Yeah, that's always been my motto.
Yeah.
If you're in the building, it's great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he filled up, and we still don't take walk-ins, and it's sweet. And we're just fortunate that we didn't have to sit around and play board games and wait for a client to come in. But that was the power of the internet at that time. And
Social media.
Now I have like no motivation to do anything on the internet, really. I mean, it's just like I'm like, I should probably post some haircuts or something. But it's like you're booked and the business is booming.
You're busy.
And you don't have that same like motivation to use it. And plus I have this other thing where I feel like people don't care about seeing it as much anymore, because at the time when Instagram was going well for me, I think that it wasn't so saturated. So people liked seeing what people's
see-
art
yeah.
was or seeing these things.
Yeah.
But now there's so much, I think that they're bored.
Yeah.
And I think they scroll right past my haircut or something. So I'm kind of like, I have less motivation to post on there.
But you post on your stories.
I do like my stories because
Yeah.
I feel like they go away and it's like less. And there is pressure with likes, to be honest. I mean, if you have some social media and you have a business platform and you post a haircut picture and it gets 60 likes, and then you post a picture of you and your wife and it gets 200, you're like, fuck, nobody cares about my haircuts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
It's like the social dilemma, because I watched it not too long ago. It's like, you know, people like can get depressed.
Yes.
Yeah, based upon the likes or responses on one post versus another post.
Yep.
Like it dictates your behavior and your thoughts.
yeah. And there's less pressure on your story.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to like count, you know?
No.
It's weird though, because
Yeah.
it sounds dumb to care about that, and I really shouldn't. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like if in your band looking at like plays on your Spotify.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
that, you know. It's like I can't help it. It kind of messes with me. So now I feel like a lot of pressure if I'm gonna post a haircut. Like it has to be like I have to think there's nothing wrong with it or something. You know what I mean? I have to be like, this is the
Yeah.
best picture to post.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I did the last haircut I posted. I luckily it was cool. I got posted on Barbershop
Oh yeah,
Connect.
I remember. Yeah,
And
I
they
saw
have
that.
like 1 million followers.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So like I get really like careful about the haircuts I post now. Whereas
Yeah.
opposed to I used to be like ding 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 ding. You know,
Yeah.
now I'm like really like choosy about what
It's
I
like,
post.
you know, it's like quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're just putting shit out just to put shit
Yeah.
out, nobody's gonna give two shits. Right?
And I think if I wasn't busy, I would fill up people's feed maybe so they could like think of me if they need a haircut. But
yeah.
also that stuff gets annoying too.
Yeah.
But since I'm busy, I only, you know, it's weird because I kind of share a photo almost with other barbers. It's like a thing kind of with us now
Yeah,
where
I see more of the other guys.
you want to
than-
like congratulate other barbers and stuff. And like, that's sick. That looks great. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a weird thing like
But
that.
you've always been like that.
Yeah.
Instead of creating a like competition style like attitude, you're
Yep.
more of a collaborative.
Yes. Yep.
So you've always been like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I pay attention to it, but I mean, of course, I'm always on the lookout for
For
like,
what's going on because your brain thinks that way.
Yeah. Of course, maybe I want to, you know, change out my haircut or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yep.
So there's always like cool
Something
stuff.
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
So what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you right now?
So, ParamountBarberingCo.com
Okay.
is the website of the business. Click book with us, and it shows everybody, and
Okay.
and you can book with them. That's the best way to do it.
Okay.
And then once you're familiar with kind of that, you can download the GenBook app,
Right.
and then you would search for Paramount. We all pop up,
You're right. And then
and
you
then you
just
can
pick.
favorite all of us.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're in there.
Right.
And so that's pretty good, and that's how we do it. We just do the online. We don't even have a shop phone because I don't need that thing ringing off the hook while I'm
Yeah.
trying to cut hair.
Can you get me in today?
Oh yeah, that's all it's
Yeah.
gonna be. So
Yeah.
I mean, we have a line that calls, but then it's like a pre-recorded thing, just telling you how to book, and then basically you can email me your question and
Yeah.
I'll respond.
Yeah, right.
But you just get punished all day if you let them. Like if you have no shop phone,
Yeah.
I don't have a secretary,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I have to book, like, as soon as I get done with one haircut, I have to book, like, 2 months out for my next one.
Yeah.
So, for me, like, I don't know anybody else, but I go every 2 weeks on a Tuesday. I try to. Because Tuesdays are generally slower days,
Nice.
you know, and I'll tell the boys, I'm like, hey, I'm leaving to go get my haircut, and then they know exactly where I'm going.
Yep.
So, and it's generally, like, Tuesday mornings.
Yep.
Very rarely do we have a shoot that comes up on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll just kind of make that my set time.
Yeah.
And right after my haircut, like, I can go out for, you know, like, I'm already 6 weeks out, so then I can schedule out that last 2 weeks because your books only go out every 2 months, right?
Yeah, because otherwise I can't freaking plan anything, you know?
You can't go on vacation.
Can't do nothing.
Can't have a kid.
Can't do nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, in regards to, like, me being so busy, I don't have, like, it doesn't mean that I think I'm the best barber, right?
Right.
I think that I figured out I was in the right place at the right time, in the right year, in the right time of Instagram, and I had a good personality for it, and I care a lot about every single haircut I do.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that, like, I literally, every single haircut I do, I never, like, tone down my dial of how hard I'm trying.
Yeah.
So if I was, you're not going to catch me at a better time than another time, right? And like in that way, and I think people can feel that. And I think, I'm also good at building relationships. And so I think that's one of the reasons I ended up so busy, but I don't think that sometimes people like, they look at me and they think like that I'm like, oh, so you're the best guy in town. I'm like, my people think I'm the best guy in town, but I'm not saying I'm the best guy in town.
Yeah.
I'm good at building relationships, and I really like cutting hair.
You care about the haircuts.
I care about it,
Yeah.
and so that's how I ended up busy.
Yeah.
And a lot of young guys will message me like, how do I get like my books like that? And I think one of the things that like younger barbers do that I see advertising on their social media is they make it very egotistical and
about
very
them.
about them
Yeah.
and how I'm great and I'm hustling or anything.
Watch my grind.
Anything. And I think that advice I give is to like kind of humble it down and make it about the person who you want to cut,
Right.
not about you,
Right. More so about the cut.
the cut and the customer, and that's like how relationships. But if you're so focused on yourself being so good and winning barber competition and all that stuff, that doesn't mean anything to the client really.
Yeah.
They might think you're cool at first, but at the same time, if you're not treating them like they're the trophy, the barber trophy, you know what I mean? And you're more concerned about competitions and stuff. Most of the time, the barbers that are really obsessed with competitions and stuff, their books are not as full. So I don't know what you equate that to, but like that's kind of like advice that I give is just like, hey, if you're obsessed with your client, like being happy, your books will be full.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every person you get that you
your entire shop is like that.
Yeah. And that's the culture I try to create,
Yeah, because it starts with the leadership.
Yeah.
It starts with you and it trickles down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean that as any offense to anybody else.
No,
that's just kind of how I think that I got booked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the secret to your success.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The secret sauce.
Right.
Yeah. People forget that, I think. I think like they see, like everybody knows because like when you're a barber, you're an independent contractor.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that you got to grind.
Yeah.
That's not a question.
Right.
Right. But like for me, if I'm like looking at this, I'm like, I don't want you to talk about how hard it is to grind because I already know.
Because you do.
I do it every day.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So one small business owner to a contractor is really not any different.
Yep.
So, but it's just about like, I want to see what you're doing. I don't want you to talk about it. I want you to be
Action.
about it. Yeah.
Yes. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Or people like kind of posting like what they're gonna do. A lot of that. I'm like,
yeah. It's all talk.
Yeah.
Action makes a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tell my guys all the time, stop talking about it, start being about it.
Right.
Right. That's the only way you're gonna do it.
That's right.
So it's just like, okay, so how do we go about doing it?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
It's the execution behind it, and then the execution clearly in the barber world are the amazing haircuts that come out of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think like with you, the reason why I like you is because I know I get a fresh cut, I get a nice cut. Because when I go to 22nd Street, all the dudes are like, "Where'd you get your cut, Jordan? You go to Paramount?" Yeah, I go to Paramount.
That's awesome.
Like, that's cool. I didn't know you went. I was like, because I go like 10:30 on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
you were in there with Aaron one time though, weren't you?
Yeah, Hornbrook. Yeah. Hornbrook. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was like, I didn't know you came here, and I was like, duh.
I've been going here.
Yeah. Hello. All right. So Genbook, your website's the best way, but if you got a question, they can always reach out. Instagram, your Facebook, or
email me off the website, even anything like that.
Because you're really great at responding to.
I try to be. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jordan, I think that's pretty much our time today. Awesome. I'd love for you to come back and maybe we can talk about, how your business survived the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I rambled too much. We didn't even get that.
No, I think this is great. I think that anybody that's out there, you gave so much perspective as what it is. Like you were an entrepreneur before you even knew you were an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. And you came from like two different walks of life. You came from running a band, which nobody would ever think that it taught you the skills to eventually lead you to being a small business owner.
Yeah.
And then you know, like anybody that's out there that's young and hungry, they can take your story and maybe they can, you know, grasp something out of it.
Totally.
And just take it for themselves and
Yeah.
and see that it's 100% attainable.
Yes.
I mean, shit, I didn't know. I really didn't know. If you would have came to me and be like, hey, I need to borrow some money, I'd be like, hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah. Do I get free haircuts?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. That's what I was doing.
But yeah, I mean, like, I had no clue. I bet you your bank, your credit union is now like,
Yeah.
it's like crickets, right?
Right.
Like, I can't believe you did it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The one guy that got it done had to put his job on the line for me. He's like, I know this dude. He's a hard worker. He
Yeah.
would not screw you over. I'll put my job on the line for it. They're like, if you're willing to do that, we'll sign it.
Jesus.
It was like that.
Yeah. Paid off in the end, though.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because now you're going into your 5th year.
Yep.
Or, well, soon to be 6.
Yeah.
And then,
crazy.
yeah. And like that shop's busy.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
proud.
you guys are freaking killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if you're interested in booking with Jordan, check out GenBook, the Paramount website, which, you know, we flashed it throughout this. Trust me, because I make the guys put in some work into these. So,
Awesome.
check Jordan out, and then I'd love for you to kind of come back, talk about the pandemic,
Yeah.
the baby, even Method Inc. again.
Yeah. So, I will say, if you are interested in any screen printing apparel, we are doing that. It's
Okay.
going really well. MethodInkPrinting.com. I
Okay.
definitely want to plug that. So,
Well, we already plugged it throughout
Cool,
it.
cool.
Trust me.
Sweet.
We'll go out and find it. I mean,
Yep.
don't be surprised when we find that emo picture of you.
oh shit.
Yeah, literally, Justin was like,
Justin will get it.
yeah,
too.
he was like, this is when I first met Jordan. This is what he looked like. And I was like, shut the front door. I was like, that doesn't even look like him. Yeah,
I'm like telling people, I'm like, whatever, man, I was cool back then. It's like 80s rockers trying to say they were cool. There's like a 2000s version of that. It's like every other decade.
I literally was like, is that Blink 182?
I know. And I had my lip pierced like Tom. And
Yeah.
I used to get like told I look like Tom.
Yeah,
back then.
I was like, that is not Jordan Peterson. He's like, yes, it is.
weird.
And I made him scroll back up to the top where it showed your name, and I was like, it was literally like quiet for like 5 seconds, and I was like, no freaking way.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Seriously. It's
All right.
nuts.
Again, check out my man Jordan. Reach out to him. He will get you in. I mean, like I know that he accommodates his clients,
I
because
do.
sometimes I've had to reach out and be like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I had a last scheduled shoot. I can't get around it. Can we switch out?" And
I'll work with people.
Yeah, he definitely does. So
That's about the relationships.
that 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as people are trying to book with me, I'll help them out.
Yeah.
Because, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you can't get in with Jordan, I recommend any of the other guys. They're
you.
great guys.
Yes.
They're wonderful. They're very kind and polite, and they just do an excellent job as well. So I mean, but again, I don't expect anything different, because it starts at the top. It starts with you.
Appreciate it.
So check out Jordan. Paramount Barbershop. Baby is on the way.
That's right.
And then
Survive the pandemic.
and then Jordan is taking some time off, right? You are taking some time
Not
off.
crazy, but 10 days.
10 days, and then he'll be back at it. So
right.
pay attention to the GenBook, and then if you can't get in, I know, again, you guys can reach out to Jordan, and he'll try to work with you.
That's right.
So Jordan, again, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate
thank you for this. This is rad.
And then I hope to get you back on sometime the first of the year.
Anytime.
And then
Love it.
Go from there. And then don't forget, all the freaking millennials are saying today, don't forget to like, subscribe. What else is there, Justin? Follow. Yeah. Like, subscribe, follow. Invitation by Invictus, or Invictus Media on our YouTube page. And then check out Jordan. Jordan, what's your Instagram handle?
Hair X Jordan. And then the shop is Paramount Barbering Co.
Got it. Don't forget to check out all of that, but we'll flash that throughout the entire thing. All right, guys, have an awesome evening. Thanks again, Jordan. We appreciate your time.